Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Now we have Stephanie Stock. Welcome.
Thank you. Chairman Wiggum, Vice Chair John, Ranking Member Kelly, and members of the House, State, and Local Government Reform Committee. I am Stephanie Stock. I am a physical therapist assistant and also the president of Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization advocating for the rights of Ohioans to choose or refuse any medical treatment or procedure, including vaccination. OhioAMF represents an active community of over 40,000. I am here today to testify in support of Ohio House Bill 90. According to the Ohio Department of Education, there are currently over 1.6 million students enrolled in Ohio schools. A recent report released by the CDC estimated vaccination coverage among kindergartners for 2019 to 2020 at 92.4%. OhioAMF can conclude from these numbers that parents and guardians of over 125,000 students in the state are utilizing state-allowed philosophical, religious, or medical exemptions. So what do those numbers have to do with legislation that establishes legislative oversight of the governor's executive orders? Since March of last year, the world has become a very different place, one in where public officials around the country, and indeed in Ohio, have implemented state mandates in the name of mitigating a pandemic, and they have restricted the liberties and the livelihoods of citizens who in most cases were neither ill nor contagious. As the public grows more impatient with strict mandates and everyone is wishing to resume some level of normalcy, new efforts to mitigate the spread of coronavirus are being announced daily, most of which only intend to maximize vaccine coverage. For example, in Ohio, Governor DeWine recently asked school districts to commit that their teachers would get vaccinated, almost implying that it was a prerequisite for schools to return to regular in-person classes. And I would like to interject here that many schools have announced that they have closed the day after their staff was vaccinated because they were too ill to return to in-person learning. Others said they were postponing and doing, or they were doing online learning for 2 to 3 days after their staff was vaccinated. Another example, several airlines have announced that travelers may soon be required to have a COVID vaccine passport in order to travel. It seems we are rapidly re-entering the era of show your papers, please. Many Americans who cannot or choose not to be vaccinated fear the world is becoming a place where they will no longer be allowed to travel, attend music or sporting events, or even send their children to school. Once these new social constructs and technologies are in place, we will be just a signature away from an unchecked governor capable of mandating a vaccine for everyone, an untested, basically trial-free phase because it is not approved by the FDA. So let's keep this in mind. Medicine is a practice, not a science. We frequently hear that the science is settled, but the reality is, the moment we say that, we contradict the scientific method itself. The scientific method is described as a method of procedure consisting in systematic observation, measurement, and experiment, and the formulation, testing, and modification of hypotheses. Criticism is the backbone of the scientific method. If criticism is the backbone of the scientific method, then why is the public criticism of the science behind the governor's one-size-fits-all health orders or a fast-track vaccine with high reaction rates being labeled as controversial or unscientific? And why is it that only the governor and the Ohio Department of Health are the only scientific voices being considered in decision-making that affects the entire state? When the executive branch, in consultation with non-elected health officials, declare a state of emergency, our legislative body is effectively removed from the decision-making process, and the citizens affected by the emergency orders are silenced. Among those silenced constituents are countless healthcare professionals, scientific professionals, and they should and could be offering opposing perspectives about mask mandates, testing, or an experimental vaccine, but they are not here. As we near the one-year anniversary of the 2-week lockdown that DeWine promised, it is time for the legislative body to return to their seats at the table and bring back the voice of their constituents. Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom strongly believes checks and balances are necessary to ensure that one single individual does not continue to make unfettered medical mandates for an entire state. We strongly urge the committee to restore the balance of power by voting in favor of House Bill 90.
Thank you for your testimony. We have Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming in. And I just wanted to ask a question because I've heard this from a number of witnesses. But in every public statement that I have seen from the governor or any of his folks, he's said that he was not requiring folks to get a vaccine. So I'm wondering if maybe you are aware of something that I'm not, because I think in at least what I've seen, it's been pretty consistent.
Chairman Wiggum and Rep. Kelly, I will reiterate, flatten the curve was going to be 2 weeks. DeWine has made many promises that he has not kept, and I'm not going to take a politician's word for it on something as vital as healthcare decisions that I make for myself and my family.
Follow up? No. Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none.